Hello, everyone. This is Dave Warner with Small Town Life, part of the Studio 25 podcast network. And today we've got a fantastic guest that I've been waiting for a while to talk to here recently, catch up kind of thing. Scott Flansburg, owner of the Herkimer Originals, human calculator. We could go on and on, but Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back. It's good to see you, Dave.
Good to see you too. So there are a lot of more people now than way back in the beginning who know you, but there's still a lot of people who don't know you. So I don't want the elevator pitch a little bit longer, but just who are you? Where the hell did you come from?
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity because it's been a dizzying last 4 years.
We're going to get into that.
I was born and raised in Herkimer, New York. I discovered I was the human calculator when I was at L.W. Bill's school right off Main Street in Herkimer, a little 9-year-old kid, and all of a sudden numbers just made sense to me. Now I served 6 years in the Air Force, and then I got out and started the human calculator, and I've been performing at schools and colleges and corporate events for over 33 years and performed for over 2 million kids. I've been on Oprah, Ellen. I've been in the Guinness Book of World Records for over 20 years as the fastest human calculator. And that's bought me ticket to perform around the world for celebrities and royalty and first families like the Obamas and the Clintons and the Bushes. And I mean, just dream come true.
Oh, really? And it is weird because when we talked about doing this show, and I said, how about Tuesday at 2? You right away went to the numbers, Tuesday at 2 kind of thing.
Yes,
it's like
I am.
Somehow your mind works a lot differently than everybody else.
Well, and to combine the human calculator and the Herkimer 9, just so you understand why I'm so eager to get this mission done, is I was in Herkimer. I was a 9-year-old kid when I discovered I was the human calculator. And then on 9/9/99, September 9th, 1999, I had an epiphany about the number 9. So as the human calculator, my mission is to make sure I reach every kid on the planet Earth before they're 9 years old to teach them this pattern about the number 9 that literally turns on the calculator in the mind. And so
I'm not sure it's turned on mine because you
right.
Mine's still in the off position.
Yeah,
but go ahead. Yeah,
that's all right. And so that's my mission as a human calculator. And when I came back to Herkimer during COVID, in our research we discovered that the first basketball team ever was called the Herkimer 9. It was a baseball team of 9 people, 9 guys from the Herkimer YMCA, and they were just trying to figure out a way to stay in condition during the winter, and that's how basketball really became a sport. So,
but how did you even think? Why were you thinking basketball? I mean, that's something I don't think I've asked you about before.
I was not.
How'd you get on that path?
A lot by chance, coincidence, however you want to call it. Living out in Phoenix, Arizona, and Scottsdale for the last 30 plus years, I happened to know Jerry Colangelo, the chairman of the Basketball Hall of Fame. We've played in golf tournaments together. He was a neighbor at Phoenix Country Club. He's a wonderful human being. And I was introduced to a book in 2019 called I Grew Up with Basketball by Frank J. Baslow. And I read that book and I just started laughing, like, what are the odds basketball was invented in my little hometown? Yeah. And no less that I knew all these people in basketball. And I just thought, wow, if I could prove this is true, Herkimer could be like Cooperstown for basketball.
So in that book, he was basically saying that it started there. I know it was about that team, but Did he say it originated there, or did he talk about the battle with Naismith and all? Or
right, it's a fascinating story, and it's continued. The book was published in 1952, I believe, but it goes through all the evidence, including an affidavit signed by Lambert Will, the kid who invented basketball, listing off how it happened, and all this local evidence that we found to support the story brought up by this I Grew Up with Basketball book by Frank J. Baslow. And
so just reading that book got you fired up to start researching.
Blew my mind. And I literally did. I walked into the Historical Society in Herkimer, and I thought I could disprove this in an afternoon. I was just going to go into the newspapers.
This can be right.
Let's just shut this down right now, And I had some free time because COVID and the schools weren't having people come to perform. And so I dug deep. And after about I mean, the first month was most surprising because I just kept finding more evidence to support the book. And after a few months, I was like, I went to my sister, Kathy Penry, and I said, hey, there's really something here. This is worthy of my time to go deeper on this. And so we started the Herkimer 9 Foundation based off the name of the team, Herkimer
Just right
9,
at that moment in time. Just
September 2020.
Really?
And just said, hey, we need to dive deeper on this and put some effort behind it. And so we started the Herkimer 9 Foundation, and people like Bruce Bohl and Dr. Renee Sheldo-Chavat and Steve Pawnee and Kevin Crossley and all these amazing people, Rich Reimstein, on, these local Herkimer folks that were like, hey, you know, this Scott guy's a little out there.
He's not as crazy as we thought he was.
No, they were right. But all these folks, you know, Mary Morris and on, these amazing local successful people all decided to jump on the Herkimer 9 board and give this thing a shot. And it has been a tenuous, frustrating experience, but at the same time, we'll go through the successes, and it's made it all worth it.
Yeah, I want to track back still a little bit, though. Was there a moment, you said there was a preponderance of evidence that you were seeing, but was there an aha moment where you went, this is really real, where you were totally 100% convinced?
Yeah, great question, Dave. Yes. I was doing my research, and instead of looking at Herkimer's evidence and Lambert Will's evidence and Frank J. Baslow's evidence, I looked at the Springfield evidence to see how their story was told, because I never really went that deep in that. And the first picture I ran into is the original 13 rules of basketball that was displayed on the wall of the first game in Springfield, Massachusetts, YMCA, claiming to be the first ever game. And that document was auctioned off at Sotheby's in 2010 for over $4 million. And now it resides at a $20 million wing at the University of Kansas, where Naismith ended up coaching and then actually is buried in Kansas.
I didn't know that.
And so that 13 rules document is in display there, okay? And when you look at that document, on the bottom, the date of it says December 1891, which is really close in the timeline that we have been discovering about the Herkimer timeline. But what was crazy was, if you look really closely at that date, it had been changed. It originally, when you could see the shadow of the writing from the previous, what the original ink had said, but it said clearly February 1892. February 1892, and somebody changed it to December 1891. And the picture that's in the Frank J. Baslow book is the picture of the Herkimer 9, and these kids are holding a basketball that says 91-92. And if Springfield introduced basketball in their newsletter in January of 1892, what are these kids doing with a basketball that said 1891? And I called one of the authors of the eventual book that we published, Brian Carroll, and I said, look at this. And we just flipped out over that. And then we found these two brothers, George and Daryl Fosty, who had written a book called Black Ice that rewrote the history of ice hockey. And they had been working on a book about the Herkimer origin story, but were threatened. They lived in Kansas, and they were getting blackballed and threatened by the Naismith family to not work on that book. And so they ended up setting it aside, putting it in storage. And when I contacted them, they said, hey, we're just finishing up this soccer book, and we'll have a little time.
Soccer or hockey? They had a soccer.
Now they're working on soccer. They're brilliant guys, two amazing historians.
Kind of sports nuts there.
Yeah, times 10. And so they said, I said, here's the evidence we found locally. And then they said they had boxfuls of evidence they had been working on. So we combined all that, and they put out a book called Naismith, MYTH, Basketball's Stolen Legacy. And that book does two things. It puts out all the evidence that shows that Lambert Will did have something going on in Herkimer before Springfield. And then it also has, the other half of the book is about all the things that Springfield and the Naismith family have done to suppress this story. So all that combined just I went all in at that point, and now this is coming up on 4 years of my life spent on this.
I know, but it's been a worthwhile journey, right? Because you've really kind of tick off some of the things that you've accomplished during that time. Because early on, there was a lot of, okay, this guy's crazy. Mm-hmm. When you look at what you've done, that path, and I want you to tick those things off and talk a little bit. I've got a list myself.
I can't wait.
Well, no, I just have it in case you miss one.
Thank you. Yeah, there has been a lot.
There's been a lot. So walk me through. And
okay, I guess first off, just from the Herkimer 9 Foundation perspective, that we saved that we saved the Quackenbush factory in Herkimer. Go figure. Here, how crazy does this connect? Mr. Quackenbush, who had over 50 patents. He invented the extension ladder, the nutcracker, and ammunition, and guns, and air guns, and all kinds of things. And they were all built in that factory on Prospect Street, Main Street in Herkimer, the village of Herkimer. And the county was getting ready to tear it down to put in some housing. And we just begged them not to. And eventually we got that property and now have the opportunity to be involved in that $10 million DRI program. And our goal is to use that building for something that resonates with Mr. Quackenbush, because, go figure, Mr. Quackenbush and his wife wrote a check, raised the money in 1889 to open the Herkimer YMCA, where a year later, his son, Paul, was on the first basketball team and one of the 9 in that picture of the Herkimer 9.
Oh, wow.
And so the Quackenbush family played a pivotal role in the beginning of basketball, and that just wasn't connected until then.
Right. And basketball itself at that time was kind of I don't want to say valley, but a small town kind of sport where there were different teams playing each other, right? Talk about that a little bit.
Mohawk Valley. And the Fossey brothers and Brian Carroll uncovered all this evidence that showed that things happened along the New York State Thruway and the Erie Canal that brought basketball to villages and towns and cities across the CNY, Central New York area. And they termed it Basketball Road. And it starts in Buffalo and it goes to Albany. And it shows everything, all these stops along the way: Rochester, Syracuse, even Binghamton,
even Little Falls.
Even Little Falls. Well, thank you for bringing that up, because in our research, I wasn't going to
let you slide on it,
I forgot. You're right. In our research, the first game was played on February 7, 1891 at the Herkimer YMCA. The next game was played against, and the two teams in that first game was the Herkimer YMCA 9, the kids, against the Herkimer Businessmen 9. And so they played the first basketball game. 2 weeks later, the first game to be played between two municipalities was the Herkimer 9 against the Little Falls 9. And so Little Falls plays a big role.
I know. Even though we were second, we were in there.
Imagine, though, what are the odds for that? And so
I know. I just think, I don't know. I don't know why people just don't get that is so frigging cool.
And why aren't we celebrating that history? And, yes. I'm sure I'm going to make somebody mad, which I've done several times.
That's okay. We both do that quite often.
You're right.
I'm okay with it.
Between Little Falls and Herkimer, right in front of the Mohawk Valley Golf and Event Center, is what's that?
Oh, the old Salada T water tower.
That's right. And we were hoping,
want that to be a basketball.
Yes, we want it to be a red, white, and blue basketball. The league that we play in, the American Basketball Association, the ABA, we use the red, white, and blue ball. And it would just symbolize our efforts with the Herkimer Originals basketball team and the connection that Herkimer and Little Falls has. It's right between them. So we're hoping to someday turn that into a red, white, and blue basketball, because you can see it from the thruway.
Yeah. If nothing else, at least get another billboard out there, maybe talking about the first inter-community game.
Well, there
basketball.
You go. Right. And there you go. We got a billboard. One of our generous sponsors, donors for the Herkimer 9 Foundation, Joe Norelli with the Norelli Family Foundation. He paid for that billboard that we now have on the New York State Thruway that proclaims Herkimer as the birthplace of basketball and home of the inventor, Lambert Will.
And how big is that darn thing? Because it's massive. What you know the measurements, Mr. Number Guy?
Yeah, I do. I think it's close to 120 by 20, 120 feet long.
I know.
20 feet high. And for Joe Norelli and his family to do that for us, it was incredibly generous. But it also played a great role because, go figure, Joe Norelli used to play basketball at Oneonta. And he played on our team, the Herkimer Originals. And
it was pretty funny.
It was an
good
awesome moment.
Yeah.
And, as in the ABA, there's 12 roster spots, but you get, as the home team, you get a 13th spot to be used for celebrities to help promote your team.
I didn't know how he got in, but it was
Yes.
last season we're talking about.
Yeah, and so Joe Norelli, at the time was 65 years old, became the oldest professional basketball player to score in a game. And it was at our game at Herkimer College.
That is just amazing.
So, Joe's a wonderful guy, and our Herkimer 9 board have brought a lot of really amazing and influential people into this story.
Oh, that's amazing. So you've talked about Quackenbush a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
talked about the originals. I mean, you haven't gone through the story of how that came about, or why did you even decide to do a basketball team? We got the logo story, but why did you even?
Daryl Fosty, he is a big sports guy, and he was working on the book with his brother George and Brian, and he said, "Hey, do you know the ABA still exists or is restarted?" I had no idea. And he goes, "You should get a team that'll help tell your story about Herkimer." And so I reached out to Joe Newman, the CEO of the ABA, and I told him what was going on. And a week later, I got a call, and they had approved us for a market reservation for a team in Herkimer. And so I was out in Phoenix, where I was still living, and one of my dear friends, Alice Cooper, him and I were playing golf, and I got the call from Joe while we were on the golf course, and he goes, "Hey, you got a team." And I hung up, and I told Alice, and he'd been listening to the story.
You got a team.
A semi-pro basketball team. And Alice, without even hesitating, just goes, "Scott, you got to call them the Herkimer Originals." And he hits his shot, and he walks over to the cart, and on the scorecard, he writes Originals, and he makes the O look like a rim and a net, because we had the first game, the first rim, the first net, were the Originals, were the OGs. That all happened in 10 seconds.
Wow.
And so we're just getting ready to open up our 4th season. We've made it to the semifinals twice, the quarterfinals, and we just played in $1 million winner-take-all tournament called the TBT. And
how did you get into that? Because I didn't hear that backstory.
This was a year and a half ago. I reached out to TBT and just said, "Hey, send me the information just in case, because we're in this league and we have access to a lot of good players." And to get a spot in the tournament's rare, because there's only 64 entry spots. It's $10,000 to get in. Winner take all for $1 million. And this year, a team out of Syracuse dropped out. It'll hit me here in a second. The name Boeheim's Army, and they had been playing in it for years. They won it a few years ago,
Really?
the $1 million.
Oh, wow.
And they decided not to play this year. And we got the call that they were looking for a replacement team. And we were Joe Norelli and the Norelli Family Foundation again stepped up and bought us a ticket into $1 million winner-take-all tournament. And we show up, and the bracket, we got paired up against, our first game was against the alumni of UConn, the back-to-back national champions college. And
was that by draw, or was that,
I don't know, but hopefully next year we'll get a better draw.
Oh, that is funny. So you intend to enter next year?
Oh, yes.
Or do you get an automatic invite? One of the 64, you get an automatic invite.
Right. Until you give up your spot, I believe you have it. And what we did was our team, our Herkimer Originals team, which did fine, but probably wasn't enough caliber to go to that thing. Well, Herkimer had just hosted the ABA All-Star game for the East region. And so we got to meet all the best players from everywhere, from Virginia to Ohio to, Rhode Island and everywhere. And so we selected 10 of the All-Stars from the ABA and to put a team together. But it was a last-minute thing. The Syracuse team dropped out at the last minute. We never even got to practice together, and we showed up and just tried to pull a miracle off, So, but it got us in.
The former winners.
Yeah, the national champions twice, their alumni team. So, but it was an honor, and we're going to work harder to be ready for it next year.
That's awesome. At least now you can plan.
Yes. Yes.
So there are a couple other really key events that happened along this path.
Let's see. Okay.
You could talk about either the New York State Hall of Fame.
Yeah, let's do that.
Or you could talk about the state legislature getting involved, or.
You're right. Wow, there's so many things that happen.
I did my research.
Yeah, thank you. This is all coming back to me now.
Somebody got to keep the numbers guy on track.
You know, the assembly proclaimed Herkimer as the birthplace of basketball, thanks to Mr. Smolin.
And I think that's huge.
It was huge.
Yeah.
And he was the force behind that. And Peter Oberacker, we got so lucky to get these people involved and get that proclamation. Let's see. And then the New York State Basketball Hall of Fame. There's a guy named Rennie LaRue. And if you don't know him, I don't know how you missed him, because he knows everybody.
He seems like a character. I don't think he knows me, though.
Okay. I mean, an amazing human.
Yeah.
And he runs the New York State Basketball Hall of Fame, the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame, and the New York State Hockey Hall of Fame. This guy, every year he has a dinner for each one of those. He knows everybody. And we got to meet, and I told him what was going on, and he and his team went through our evidence and read the book, Naismith, and also the Baslow book, and eventually put Lambert Will from Herkimer YMCA on the ballot, and he went in. He was inducted into the New York State Basketball Hall of Fame in April, and the whole Herkimer 9 Foundation board went to the dinner, spouses and everybody, and we celebrated and honored Lambert Will there, and he was inducted into the class of 2024. So now he's recognized as the inventor of basketball.
Yeah. And where is that located? Where do they have that?
Albany.
Albany.
And Rennie LaRue has offered or signed a letter of intent that if we can get our county and our village and our town and the college to support this, that he would consider moving the New York State Basketball Hall of Fame to Herkimer Main Street, where basketball was invented.
And I think that's massive. I mean, to me, that's a big deal.
We're hoping that with all these momentum that we've got now, that the Herkimer County, that the village and the town of Herkimer College, with their programs for students, and all the support we could get from even our Herkimer and those, to really bring everybody come together to host the New York State Basketball Hall of Fame in Herkimer, which is only 28 miles from the Cooperstown Baseball Hall of Fame on Route 28. So for families, it would be great. And then we've got Utica with its hockey, even the Slapshot movie, on and on. So we create this triangle.
It's always, when you have three, there's a number for you, Scott.
Tesla.
But yeah, well, when we look at the, like alcohol tourism, I call it, you really we have an awesome brewery here, but if we had two more, you become a destination.
Yep.
And I think that's what you're trying to create, is that destination of, think about it, Cooperstown and Herkimer, the basketball, New York State Basketball Hall of Fame, and it would be awesome. And if we could do something in Utica, hockey-wise.
Well, and don't forget, we have a diamond mine here. There's
don't say Herkimer Diamonds.
I didn't.
On this
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard you drop that word.
But
the Little Falls Diamond folks are not happy.
It's a fascinating story. It's almost Springfield and Herkimer-ish, right?
We could go there.
But our sponsor for the OGs is the Herkimer Diamond Mines, so I do say it. Sorry, Dave.
I know, but I have to defend Little Falls.
Of course.
So any other major kind of things along that path that I've skipped over?
Next is now that Lambert Will is in the New York State Basketball Hall of Fame, listed as the inventor of basketball, he is on the ballot for the Springfield Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame class of 25. They vote in January
of next year,
coming up, on who's going in. But here's the problem: we get all this way.
Ballot. I know that part.
We get all this way, and we get to the Naismith Hall of Fame in Springfield to find out that it's a secret society, that no one knows who's on the voting committee, that no one knows who votes or how they voted. They're not allowed to communicate it in any way, and that the votes are collected by the CEO of the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame and counted and then burned.
No conflict of interest there.
And if you want to perpetuate a myth, that's one easy way to do it. Yeah. So we're asking the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame to consider changing their transparency, lighten it up a little bit. And it is odd, but in our research, we also found that the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame is the only Hall of Fame with a person's name attached to it. No other national or, big sport Hall of Fame has a person's name on it.
That's interesting. Yeah. Thinking about it. Yeah.
I'm not sure why they did that. But, one of the things that we've learned about the Baslow book after the Baslow book is that Mr. Baslow, Frank J. Baslow, and Lambert Will in the early 1950s ended up going to Springfield because a group of businessmen in Springfield decided to open up the Hall of Fame and name it Naismith Hall of Fame. And they went to fight for it.
Yeah, and there was a big battle over that.
Big battle, attorneys, committees, the lawyers, the whole thing, right? And we recovered over 300 documents from that meeting. We found them in a cellar at Columbia University.
Good Lord. And
it really gave us a lot of insight into how close it was, and that Herkimer just didn't have the money or the momentum and decades of a head start from Mr. Naismith.
And they had corporate backers and everything, right, on that?
Everything was already done.
It was a done deal.
The coaches, everybody, nobody had heard of Lambert Will.
Right.
Really. And so Mr. Will and Mr. Baslow came back to Herkimer in 1956, and I think that's when it ended, where they gave up. And then go figure, when they do open the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame a few years later, the first thing they do is not include Lambert Will or Herkimer 9 or the Herkimer YMCA in any way. And that stayed that way, Dave, until 1990s. In 1994, Springfield was doing a display about the 100-year anniversary of basketball. And they finally put a display about Lambert Will up, about him being involved in the beginning. And the Lambert Will family was so overwhelmed, so excited, they took their physical evidence to Springfield, and the curator at the Hall of Fame put that under glass, a picture of Lambert Will, a picture of the team, a ticket from one of the YMCA members. They put it under glass, and they had a ceremony on a Monday morning at 9 a.m., no media allowed, just 30 family members of Lambert Will. They left after that. Very emotional. We have the videotape of it. And one of the family members went back a month later, and the display was gone, and they asked about it, and the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame denied knowing what happened to it, or where it is, or where it was, or what happened to it in any way, and to this day has never been returned to the Lambert Will family or addressed. So
that evidence, basically, because that was evidence, right?
Yeah, and then it gets crazier. In 2009, 2010, the Fossey brothers are working on the book about basketball starting in Herkimer.
Right.
An article occurs in, let's say, September 2010 in Kansas. A month later, the Naismith family contacted Sotheby's, and 2 months later, the original 13 rules of basketball were auctioned off for over $4 million through Sotheby's to a billionaire or something in Kansas. And so that the Naismith family got rid of the 10 Commandments of basketball, the most important document in basketball history, to auction it off at that time. Just the timing of all these things. So I know I could go deep conspiracy rabbit hole wise, but when you look at those pieces of evidence individually, there's definitely patterns on both sides. And the Herkimer timeline never changed. Everything we found has continuity.
Right.
But the Springfield stuff, changing the dates, all these documents we found that show that there's some nefarious activity.
Do you think there's more evidence to find, or are you at the end of the finding, or do you think there's still more out there?
Great question. There's more, but we know what it is now. When I first talked to Springfield, I met with the senior vice president of the Hall of Fame, and he was fascinated, had never heard anything about Lambert Will. And I walked him over to the 13 rules that's at the entry of the Hall of Fame and pointed out the date. And that's when I saw him see that there was a date change for the first time. So I knew something was up. And so he said, hey, if you can find some evidence, we would love to see it. And so they gave me unlimited access to the Springfield College files, where all of their stuff goes back to the beginning.
Wow.
And they gave me and Brian Carroll 8 hours in a secure room with camera, with the gloves, the whole thing. And we got to look through all these historic documents with the curator there. And
could you photograph them? So you had your...
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And in that day, we located, the curator actually gave it to us, a copy of a document that we had not known about. It was called the Herkimer YMCA Review, which was a monthly publication from the Herkimer YMCA, which just so happened to start in January of 1891. the weeks before the first game in February of 1891.
A month before.
And this newsletter was from 1893. So we have uncovered, we've located a half a dozen of these documents in 1892 and 93. But for some bizarre reason, you can't find any from 1891. It's like they're all gone. And so
there's got to be one out there. Somebody's got one somewhere.
The Fosty brothers, they're all working hard on this. And there's other documents.
So is that the Shroud of Turin you're looking for?
One of them, because when you read these things, it was just plain language every day. Hey, today, these guys won this thing and they won that thing. I mean, it would be in that document. But there's other documents from Springfield that would help put light on this that just seem to be missing as well. So we'd like to locate those documents as well, and any other local stuff from Herkimer.
So when looking at the team and the path you're on, what's the next step? What's the next thing you're trying to accomplish? Earlier you'd mentioned DRI, which stands for Downtown Revitalization Initiative. Herkimer got a $10 million grant. How do you fit in that picture? Is that the next step forward, or do you have other steps around that and with that?
Well, it's funny. When we started the Herkimer 9, Delta Engineers did a video for us to show if we could recreate 1891 on Main Street, Herkimer, to freeze in time the moment that basketball was invented. Most of those buildings are still standing there. They're just in rough shape.
I saw that video. It's pretty cool.
And
rendering.
Yes, and the big one down there is the Lambert Will Event Center, where we could host basketball tournaments on the spot where basketball was invented. So you can bring your kids to Herkimer and have them shoot baskets where the first basket was made. You can't get more sentimental than that. The Hall of Fame in Springfield, the location has nothing to do with the birthplace of basketball or anything that happened in Springfield at that time. It's over at the college. It had nothing to do with this place. So we have the spot where it happened in the
You have the sacred ground.
Yes, exactly. And our goal is to get the county and the village and the town to all work together to help us make that, revitalize it, but create a moment in time and a place where families can come to celebrate basketball at the highest level, just the same way they do it 28 miles down the road in Cooperstown for baseball.
And that's a shrine down there. I mean,
yes, a couple of them.
That is sacred ground down there.
Dream Park, Doubleday Field, the Hall of Fame. Over half the stores on Main Street are baseball related. So I just think
of that in Herkimer. I mean, that could be Herkimer's future.
Well, and all the stores are empty on Main Street right now, so it's not like we got to kick anybody out.
No, blank canvas, right?
Yes, exactly. And so with a $10 million DRI and all this coming together right now, I really hope, I'm sort of trying to step aside because I've been a bit controversial and lots of drama attached to some of these projects and timing and all. So I just think the idea and the story is so much bigger than me. I'd rather get out of the way and give the Herkimer 9 Foundation and the board and the county and the village and the state a chance to capture this magic in a bottle, which would make Herkimer just like Cooperstown.
I think it's an opportunity we can't ignore.
Thank
you.
I
mean, we really can't.
Well, and I got to tell you.
I think it's exciting for Little Falls. We're 6 miles away from what you're talking about.
Yes.
And we were part of it in the beginning. I mean, we should be on board as well.
Well, and my goal is I would love nothing better than for these AAU teams, these junior teams that travel around and play all the tournaments all the different times. We have the ability right here to put together a little tournament where when teams come in, they could play in different venues that all capture first. The Herkimer YMCA, where the Lambert Will Event Center would be one. Herkimer College, obviously, right next to where Lambert Will is buried.
Right.
Okay. Little Falls YMCA, where that signifies...
That's a small court. We would do a half court thing, maybe.
But these are little kids, the juniors, right? And that would be where the first game happened outside of Herkimer. And then in Mohawk, they have the Armory, which used to be the YMCA. And that is where the first basketball game with a backboard was played.
Oh, really?
And so for the kids to have to play games in those different areas, they'd have to come to Little Falls and have lunch or dinner.
Yeah.
And they're in Herkimer, they're in Mohawk, they're on the Erie Canal, they got the Diamond Mine. I mean, and 28 miles to Cooperstown. I just think we need to take advantage of this one in a million
It really is, yeah.
thing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Let's talk about the team a little bit. We got a season coming up.
Yes.
Yes. You're like, oh, here we go again, season 4, right?
Yeah, it's worth it. It's work, but it's worth it.
It's work. How's it looking so far? I know it's early. I know you haven't started practicing, but you're doing something, right?
Oh, yeah, always. The schedule just got done. We're finishing up locations where we're going to be playing our home games. We want to be in Herkimer, but if we can't be in Herkimer yet until we build our own facility, we're going to have to go in the Mohawk Valley, just like the Diamond Dogs do.
Right.
They're the Mohawk Valley Diamond Dogs. They're not the Little Falls.
No.
And I think Travis Heiser did a great job there by making it feel like more of the valley instead of one little
And I think
city.
you had to, because you need to reach out to all the other communities around here. Like you're doing.
Well, and Herkimer only has 7,000 people, so we can't depend on.
Yeah, no, you gotta go further than that.
Yeah, and people drive to Utica to see things, but we're hoping Utica people will drive to Herkimer to see things.
Yeah, it's close. I mean, Utica's from Little Falls, 35 minutes. I mean, come on.
Well, it's only
go to
13 miles, Herkimer to Little Falls. So, I just.
Well, Herkimer to Little Falls is 6.
I'm sorry, Herkimer to Utica is 13 miles.
Yeah,
Thank you. I'm not good with that.
Yeah, you're not good with the numbers kind of thing.
So, to me.
What's 12 times 12, 12 times 12?
Yeah, right? Yeah. I could do that.
I know you're good.
I just, I really hope that the community comes together and supports the Quackenbush building becoming a place where families and kids, where learning is occurring. Whether it's STEM, whether it's blue collar stuff, anything in between. I think we need to take advantage of that building and its history. And Main Street, Herkimer, deserves a chance to look like it did in 1891 when basketball was invented. I just think that would be a draw like nothing else we could do on Main Street.
So how does the team play into that, though?
Yeah, that's been the dream come true. The Herkimer Originals. We go to Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New York, Connecticut, Ohio, Pennsylvania. I mean, we play teams from all over the place, and we've been pulling to town where the Originals, Herkimer Originals, like, why are you guys called the Herkimer? It prompts the question.
Right.
And our coverage has been national and international already because of the TBT we played in. And so it just turned out to be an amazing vehicle to promote the story that Herkimer invented basketball. So it's been very rewarding.
You've got the schedule.
Yeah, we got a schedule. We're getting venues.
Players. You're already recruiting.
Well, we got about half of our team from last year that's going to probably come back. And we've met a lot of new players after the TBT. They wanted to play on our team then, and a lot of them are interested in this whole thing now. They want to be a part of this. The other thing I'm working on, Dave, I guess I should talk about here is I signed a deal with a production company in LA to put a documentary together.
Oh, nice.
About this. And we've met with some of the largest companies in the world, distributors in the world. And we haven't got it across the finish line yet, but every meeting we learn, and every meeting we can see that these people are genuinely interested in this. It's just a matter of whether they want to put their brand on something that isn't, you're fighting a 130-year conspiracy, NBA, ESPN, all those folks are all in on this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'll take them on.
we are as best we can.
Yeah.
And I think getting Lambert Will into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in January would go a really long way. And if the Herkimer Originals could win the ABA this year at the same time and then go to the TBT and put on a good show, I just think the next year is very exciting for us. And, we're set up now. Our worst case scenarios are we don't win the ABA. We don't do well in the TBT, but we're still out there promoting this story. And you know how sports is. It's not always win-win-win for most teams. Right. And so we've had a couple great years, and we hope to capitalize on that.
Well, I think it's, like you said, the next, 6 months are going to be pretty interesting.
Yes, they are. We've got some great sponsors. Just to have Steep Pawnee Auto Group be our sponsor since the beginning, and to have the Herkimer Diamond Mine and then Rock City Center. They stepped up. Martin and his team, wonderful people, and I really think he loves the connection with the Little Falls story.
Oh, yeah.
With Herkimer.
He would love that, yeah.
So it's really we're doing a good job. We need more sponsors. We need more organizations to come to our games. Bring your organization for a night. So things like that we'll get better at doing. We're still a young team, and I've been doing most of it. So if I get out of the way, I really think it can be done a lot better. I'm much better at mental math.
Yeah. So if people want to find out more, what resources would you send them to?
Herkimer9.org is for the Herkimer 9 Foundation. And, we're part of the MV program coming up next month, MV Gives.
Yep. Mohawk. So I didn't know you were part of that.
Yes.
So the Mohawk Valley Gives, I just did a podcast this morning, actually, about that. That'll probably air just before yours, so it'll be good, but that's on September 20th.
Okay, good to know. Yes, that's right.
Yep.
And some of our donors have offered to help us get a billboard in Springfield, Massachusetts to point people to Herkimer. So, we're not wasting money.
You're not. Oh my God, Scott,
we're all
you're
in.
so bad.
So the Herkimer 9 Foundation is still actively doing research. We have authors, writers, researchers. I mean, we're spending money to try to take this across the finish line,
right,
to show that it's real. And then the HerkimerOriginals.com is for the basketball team. HerkimerOGs.com.
Right?
Yep. And for me, as the human calculator, because starting in September, I am back being the human calculator and performing at schools, which is what I do best. And I would, any schools or companies that want me to perform or do a show, I'd be greatly honored if they would reach out, because not doing it for a few years, working on this, has proven to me, that it's just the best thing for my soul. And I really, we all know we each have to take care of ourselves first. And I sort of put that on the back burner these 4 years. And so I think that'll recharge me.
Well, since some people might not know what you can do, I'm going to test you. You haven't been tested in 4 years, so I want to see how rusty you are.
Okay, so just for fun, I'll demonstrate my world record. It's what makes it.
But see, what, you don't want to take my challenge?
Well,
I have a challenge here.
My Guinness World Record.
Go ahead.
I've had for 24 years in a row.
Okay.
So punch in 12 plus 12 on your calculator.
But you know what that is.
Well, this is an example.
12
plus 12. And hit equals, it says 24. But now hit equals again, it should say 36.
Yep.
And now keep hitting equals. Keep hitting equals.
Yep.
And you'll see that it keeps adding 12 more.
It does.
It's called a constant. Okay. Right. So I can do that with any number. So clear the calculator. Okay. Don't let me see it.
Okay.
Pick a tough 2-digit number you want me to count by. Big one, but don't say it out loud. Just punch it in for now.
Okay.
And then hit the plus sign. And then hit the same 2-digit number again. And hit equals. And now you're going to tell me that starting number, and I'm going to start counting by it. And you just hit equals to keep up with me as I keep saying the next answer.
I'm going to beat you. How many times?
Don't try to beat me. I want you to shadow me so people can see that I'm not getting it wrong. I'm closing my eyes so I can't see
close.
it.
All right.
Okay. What did you start with?
174.
So you started with 87. If you hit equals again, you should get 261, 348, 435, 522, 609, 696, 783, 870, 957, 1044, 113, 11218, 1305, 1392, 1479, 1566, 1653, 1740, 1827, 194, 2001. So I can just tune into any number and count as fast as I can talk.
I did keep up with you.
Yes. Well, I went medium speed there. I didn't go crazy.
I know you did. I've seen you go faster.
Yes. So I just wanted people to see that I'm not making that up. And I discovered I could do that when I was a little kid in Herkimer, New York. And so to come full circle and to get the Herkimer 9 Foundation to have an impact on Main Street, Herkimer, and to help revitalize it with the support of the county and the village and the town and the DRI with the state.
And to give the kids something.
Well, there's no kids on Main Street, and this would change all that. The event center in the Quackenbush building would be the magnets that Main Street needs to start revitalizing. Yeah. So it's been a fun 4 years, Dave. I got to be honest with you. I came home to Herkimer once a week, once a year, and it was for the Cuyahoga Valley Golf Tournament. It's a big annual thing. Yep. And I went to West Canada after Herkimer, so it resonates with me. It's like a reunion every year.
Right.
And when I came back, and my sister Kathy and her husband Bill sat me down one night and said, maybe you should try this. And to this day, I wake up every morning like, what have I gotten myself into here? But it is an honor, and I hope I do help the village of Herkimer down, in the end.
Well, I think you've given them plenty of excitement, if nothing else.
Thanks,
So
Dave.
thank you for being here today.
Well, and I appreciate you keeping up with this because
I tried to.
and I hope that the documentary and movie or series or whatever it turns into communicates this amazing story that needs to be told.
I think so too.
Thanks for your time,
All right.
Dave.
You're welcome. We'll see you next time on Small Town Life.